Good for your franchise, the right thing to do at this time.
Yeah, I think as we looked at the options, we had approached this issue with Glenn, John Hamilton, his agent, prior to the deadline, as a possibility for us to move forward with. And after the deadline passed, we just felt like this change was necessary and a good thing for our team and also for Glenn. So I think it mutually benefited both sides.
Why was it necessary?
It opens up opportunity for the players on our team to get some more minutes. I think the minutes, knowing Jacques, they're going to be based on merit and they're going to have to be earned. But with Glenn leaving, it certainly opens up some minutes for some of our younger guys.
Why was it necessary to release Glenn? I mean, hypothetically, he could have been on the bench and the minutes could have been allocated to the younger guys.
I think part of it was we wanted to do right by Glenn. And, clearly we're built in a certain way and we feel like the remaining 26 games of the season, it's important for our young guys to get as much opportunity and playing time as possible. And at the same time, we felt we owed it to Glenn to make sure that he landed in a spot that could benefit him and his career.
Was there a chance to see Tobias at 4, to see Kyle at 4, some things like that? Just give the guys more time in general.
I think that's a question for Jacques. I think again that there'll be more minutes available by the virtue of Glenn's absence. How those minutes get earned and divvied up will depend on Jacques' discretion and the performance of the guys and who ends up earning it.
Rob, how much of a concern was it that if Glenn was on the bench, that he'd be a disruptive influence?
I don't think it was a concern. Again, I think it was more about when we're moving in a different direction and we have a player who probably doesn't fit the long-term plan. We want to make sure we do right by all of our players, and this is one of those instances where I think Glenn benefited from this buyout.
Rob, how many days did Glenn know that this was a possibility?
I'd say 4 or 5 days, maybe.
I mean, he kind of walked off the court the other night. Do you think it was bothering him, on his mind? It seems like everybody knew something was coming.
I would think a little would be my guess. I think, we're all human. Glenn's a human, so I'm sure it was weighing on his mind a little bit, yeah.
Did they have from your talks with his agent and representatives, was it out there where he had a place that he could go, where there were teams? How does that work exactly?
No. So after the buyout's been official, that's when sort of the recruiting process or what have you begins. So yeah, that would be more of a question for his agent, John Hamilton, but to my knowledge, there was no sort of clear path moving forward.
Was there ever close to a trade involving him?
We looked at a lot of different things. I'll never comment on whether a deal was close or wasn't, but we certainly explored all of our options.
How does this impact you guys salary cap-wise? Can you stretch the remainder of his time? I guess he's got 1 year, so stretching is probably not a possibility, right?
Correct. The team can elect to stretch, but we're not going to elect to do that.
Was this always like the last go-to option? This was a must to get Glenn, settled out of here with your plan, your long-term plan.
We just felt like this was the best option for the team and for Glenn. And anytime you have a mutual desire to come to an agreement, those are usually the best types of deals. So we feel good about it. We feel like it allows us to continue to grow, continue to maximize the development opportunities that exist for the rest of the season, and it gives Glenn a chance to hopefully find a place where he can continue his career successfully.
And sharing the information with your team members, and how did that go out, and how did that play out?
I think the team understands that it's a business, and I think the team understands that what happens today, what happens tomorrow, the only thing they can control is their approach and how they compete, and to do it consistently and genuinely and with some urgency. So it's pretty much status quo, I think, moving forward.
Is the decision not to stretch out his remaining money to help you guys have more money, if necessary, in free agency in, I guess, 2015?
Yes.
When it's a mutual agreement, Rob, who brought up this possibility first? You or him?
It was initiated by us. Glenn has a wonderful agent in John Hamilton who does a heck of a job. So we worked on it together and were able to agree to what we felt was a good thing for both sides.
Was there ever, Rob, a broach in him coming off the bench, or do you think at the point where he is in his career that that just was not going to work?
You know, again, it was more about trying to do right by Glenn. You know, Glenn is competitive. Glenn cares a great deal about his teammates, and he cares a great deal about winning. So I think any role we would have asked him to fill, he would have gladly done it. This was more about just trying to do right by him and helping him move forward in the proper way.
Rob, as far as Thursday, it seems like a lot of teams in your situation are looking for draft picks, young guys. Was that along your thinking in some of the discussions you had with teams? Because it seems like when you read that a lot of GMs were looking for kind of the same thing.
Yeah. You know, I think we were, you know, it's our job always to look at ways to explore how to improve the team. And certainly around the trade deadline, those types of initiatives and exploratory, you know, talks ramp up. And so, you know, were we looking for picks? Were we looking for players? We were just looking for ways to improve the team. And, you know, we weren't able to find anything that we felt did that, so we stood pat.
Have you found that that's getting more difficult all the time?
I think it's relative. I think it's relative to the marketplace at any given point in time. I think it's more of a function of maybe what's available in the context of, you know, that certain deadline.
We understand that Adonis Thomas will be signed by you guys to a 10-day. What would he bring you guys?
So with Glenn, with Glenn's absence, we now have 12 on the roster. So we'll look to fill the 13th spot. We are looking at 10-day candidates, Adonis being one of them, but nothing has been finalized yet. But I do think we will look to sign a 10-day or two here in the coming days.
Right.
So there's a potential that you would also fill a 14th roster spot.
Correct.
Is there any position of need that you guys have identified?
You know, probably a big guy, probably someone on the front line, considering that, you know, Glenn's void will create probably some more minutes in the front court. But we're just looking for anybody we think could be a good player.
Would you consider Solomon Jones?
We would. Yeah, we'd consider him.
You now have only one guy left that is a non-Hennigan guy, Jameer.
Well, two, because Schmitz is still here.
Well, yeah, I've been here forever. But are you satisfied with the way this has gone since you've taken over? Are you not? Where do you stand as far as this total remake, really, of your roster has gone?
Yeah, it's you know, it's part of the process. You know, I think we're moving in the right direction. We've still got a lot of work to do, but I think this is another step in the plan toward building a team that can be together for a long time and be competitive for a long time.
As far as what the media expectations might have been for the trade deadline, kind of what you saw out there, are you still getting the sense that organizations are getting a feel for how this new collective bargaining agreement is going to work and all the tools that they have at their disposal? What changes have come because of the luxury tax?
Yeah, I think a little bit, yeah. I think, you know, the agreement having been in place now for just a couple of years, it's still relatively in its infancy. And I think there's some dynamics at work that some are subtle, maybe some are not so subtle, but I do think it is playing a role in how teams strategize and how teams look to make moves and look to build their teams.
You have a couple more veterans, Jameer, Aaron, and Max. In this process, was there any, obviously Aaron's got a couple more years, but with Jameer and Max, is that buying them out, moving them along, is that, you know, a possibility?
Yeah, no, you know, I think, again, we value all the veterans we have on our team. They have an important role on our team. And yes, we have a very young team, but I think you need to be careful about becoming too young and having too much youth. So finding that balance between young, old, and everything in the middle is important as we move forward.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.